The rain seemed appropriate for a funeral, but Sarah Martinez knew her father would have hated the melodrama. James Martinez had been a pragmatic man, a self-made tech mogul who valued substance over show, which made the spectacle his widow, Victoria, was creating all the more grotesque. Victoria stood before the gathered mourners, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief that still had the price tag tucked inside. "James was everything to me," she sobbed, her voice carrying across the funeral home's premium suite, the one she'd insisted on upgrading to using the emergency credit card she'd taken from Dad's wallet while he was in the hospital. Sarah sat in the front row, laptop balanced on her knees, watching the performance through the lens of someone who'd spent the last 3 years documenting every move her stepmother made. At 32, Sarah had inherited her father's analytical mind and his instinct for recognizing predators. Victoria had entered their lives like a carefully calculated virus, targeting her recently widowed father with precision. Sarah had seen through the designer clothes and practiced laugh immediately. But her father, lonely and vulnerable after her mother's death, had been an easy mark. "My beloved husband would have wanted me to carry on his legacy," Victoria continued, her mascara artfully smudged, "to maintain the lifestyle we shared." Sarah's fingers tightened on her laptop. The lifestyle they shared had lasted exactly 18 months, the time between the wedding and her father's unexpected diagnosis. Victoria had spent most of it renovating the house, replacing everything Sarah's mother had chosen with gaudy modern pieces that Dad had been too distracted to notice. But Sarah had noticed everything. Her laptop contained meticulous records. Every expenditure, every investment opportunity Victoria had suggested, every attempt to access company accounts. Most importantly, it held the real bank statements, the ones Victoria hadn't found despite her thorough search of the house after Dad's death. The funeral director signaled that it was time for the family to leave for the cemetery. Victoria made a show of needing support, leaning heavily on her personal assistant, a muscular young man named Troy who'd appeared shortly after Dad's diagnosis. Sarah followed the procession, remembering the night 3 years ago when she'd first started keeping records. She'd come home unexpectedly from a business trip to find Victoria in Dad's home office, photographing documents with her phone. That night, Sarah had installed the first of many hidden cameras. At the cemetery, Victoria's performance reached new heights. "I don't know how I'll manage," she wailed, collapsing artfully against Troy. James left everything in such confusion. Sarah bit back a smile. Victoria had no idea just how organized James Martinez had really been. The rain intensified as they lowered the casket, but Victoria's tears remained photogenic under her broad black umbrella. She positioned herself perfectly for the business news photographers who'd come to cover the tech mogul's funeral. Tomorrow's headlines would show the grieving widow, not the calculating woman who'd spent the previous night dancing in her closet while trying on Dad's watches. After the final prayers, Victoria gathered the mourners for an announcement. "In honor of James's memory, I'll be hosting a reception at our home, his beloved estate where we shared such joy." Sarah checked her watch. Right on schedule. "Mrs. Martinez?" A man in a sharp suit approached, holding out a business card. "I'm Gregory Phillips, from Martinez Technologies' legal department. We need to discuss some urgent matters." Victoria waved him away. "Not now. I'm grieving." "I'm afraid it can't wait," he insisted. "The company bylaws require immediate attention to succession planning." Victoria's perfectly lined eyes narrowed. As James's widow, as executor of the estate. Sarah interrupted smoothly. "I'll handle this." She turned to the gathered mourners. "The reception will be held at the Plaza Hotel, not the house. All arrangements have been made. Victoria's face flushed beneath her makeup. The house is no longer your concern, Sarah finished. She nodded to Greg, who produced a thick envelope. What is this? Victoria demanded, her grieving widow facade cracking. The complete documentation of your activities over the past 3 years, Sarah said quietly. Bank statements, surveillance footage, phone records, everything. Victoria's hand trembled as she opened the envelope. Her eyes widened as she saw the first page, a detailed record of every unauthorized transaction she'd made since marrying Dad. This is absurd, she began, but her voice lacked conviction. Sarah opened her laptop, turning it so only Victoria could see the screen. This is from last night. The champagne looked expensive. Was it worth celebrating Dad's death? The color drained from Victoria's face as she watched herself twirling in her closet, champagne in hand, trying on James's watches, and practicing her grieving widow speech in the mirror. There's more, Sarah continued. Much more, including your conversations with Troy about accessing the company accounts. Troy took a step back, suddenly very interested in his phone. You can't, Victoria began. I can, and I have. Sarah closed the laptop. The house has already been cleared of your things. They're in storage. You have 24 hours to collect them. James wanted. Dad wanted his legacy protected. That's exactly what I'm doing. Sarah handed her another envelope. This is what you actually inherit, according to the prenup you signed. The amount matches exactly what you brought into the marriage. Nothing. Victoria's hands shook as she read the documents. This isn't possible. I checked everything. The accounts were decoys, Sarah finished. Dad may have been lonely, but he wasn't stupid. Every account you found was set up after we discovered you photographing his documents. The real assets were moved long ago. The rain had stopped, but Victoria didn't notice her umbrella was still up. I'll fight this, she threatened. With what evidence? Your photos of fake documents. Your 18-month marriage to a man whose accounts you tried to access before he was even dead. Sarah smiled. The media would love that story, almost as much as they'd love the video of you celebrating last night. Victoria's facade cracked completely. You planned this all along. No, Sarah corrected. You planned this all along. I just documented it. She turned to the waiting car, then paused. Oh, and Victoria? The watches you were trying on last night? They're replicas. Dad replaced the real ones the day you started photographing his office. He knew exactly who you were. He just wanted to see how far you'd go. As Sarah walked away, she heard Victoria's outraged scream behind her. The sound was far more honest than any of her grief had been. In the car, Greg looked at her admiringly. Your father would be proud. Sarah nodded, thinking of all the nights she and Dad had spent reviewing the evidence, preparing for this moment. He'd known he was dying long before he told Victoria. Those private evenings, planning how to protect his real legacy, had been their final gift to each other. The reception should be interesting, Greg commented. Very, Sarah agreed, opening her laptop to send the final set of instructions to the bank. Nothing says celebration of life quite like serving a gold digger her just desserts. Her phone buzzed. A message from the security team at the house. Victoria's things had been moved to storage, and the locks were changed. The cameras caught her arriving at the front gate, only to find her access code denied. Sarah smiled, remembering Dad's words from their last private conversation. The best revenge isn't just serving it cold, it's serving it with irrefutable evidence. The car turned toward the Plaza Hotel, where the real celebration would begin, not of death, but of justice, served exactly as planned. The Plaza Hotel's grand ballroom sparkled with understated elegance, exactly the kind of quiet sophistication Victoria had tried to erase from their lives. Sarah stood near the entrance, watching guests arrive and noting who seemed genuinely grieved and who was simply there to witness the drama unfold. Her phone hadn't stopped buzzing since they left the cemetery. Victoria had been busy, calling every contact she'd collected during her brief marriage, trying to find someone with enough influence to challenge the will. But Dad had been thorough. Every possible loophole had been closed long before his death. "Ms. Martinez?" A waiter approached with a tablet. "We have a situation at the entrance." The security feed showed Victoria attempting to enter through the service entrance, Troy trailing behind her with significantly less enthusiasm than he'd shown at the funeral. "Let her in," Sarah instructed. "But first, make sure she sees the prenup terms displayed on the memorial video wall." Dad's tech background had given Sarah access to tools Victoria hadn't considered. The elegant digital memorial, displaying family photos, included, every few slides, the key terms of the prenup Victoria had signed without reading carefully enough. Each term appeared just long enough to be noticed by the guests, but not long enough to seem tasteless. Victoria stormed in moments later, her funeral outfit somehow even more dramatic than before. She headed straight for Howard Chen, Dad's oldest business partner. "Howard," she gushed, grabbing his arm. "There's been a terrible mistake. James would never." "Actually, he would," Howard interrupted, gently removing her hand. "James showed me everything months ago. The videos, the bank records, the photos you took of his documents." He smiled apologetically. "Did you really think no one noticed you trying to access the company's servers?" Victoria's carefully reapplied makeup couldn't hide her shock. "I was just trying to understand the business," she protested. "For James's sake." "Is that why you contacted our competitors?" Sarah asked, joining them. She opened her tablet, displaying a series of emails Victoria had thought were securely deleted. "Dad's cybersecurity team is the best in the business. Nothing really disappears." Victoria's face went from pale to flushed in seconds. "You've ruined everything," she hissed at Sarah. "No," Sarah corrected calmly. "You ruined everything the moment you thought you could outsmart a tech mogul and his daughter." She nodded to security. "I believe Mrs. Martinez was just leaving." "This isn't over," Victoria threatened, but her voice lacked conviction. "Actually, it is." Sarah projected another document onto the memorial wall, Victoria's signature on a non-disclosure agreement. "Unless you'd like to explain to the SEC why you were sharing confidential company information with our competitors." Victoria fled, leaving Troy to awkwardly follow after collecting their coats. The gathered guests tried to hide their satisfaction, but Sarah caught several smiles behind raised glasses. Howard touched her arm gently. "Your father would have loved this." "He helped plan it," Sarah revealed, leading Howard to a quiet corner. "Those last few months, when Victoria thought he was too sick to notice anything, we spent every morning going over the evidence and planning this moment." She opened a secure folder on her tablet, showing Howard the full extent of their preparation. Every secret phone call Victoria had made, every private meeting with competitors, every attempt to access restricted information, documented and timestamped. "The best part," Sarah continued, "the fake documents she photographed. Dad encoded them with invisible watermarks. Every time she shared them with competitors, we knew exactly where they went. The SEC has been building their case for months. Howard whistled softly. James always said you were the smartest person in any room. He taught me well. Sarah watched the memorial photos cycle through, lingering on one of her and Dad in his home office, both laughing at something off camera. He taught me that the best defense isn't just preparation. It's letting your opponents think they're winning until the very last moment. Her phone buzzed again, a message from the security team at the house. Victoria had tried to access the garage using her old code, presumably to collect the luxury car Dad had bought her. The cameras caught her expression when she realized the car was gone. Sold weeks ago, the proceeds donated to the Cancer Research Foundation Dad had established. What happens now? Howard asked. Now? Sarah smiled. Now we celebrate Dad's real legacy, not the fortune Victoria wanted, but the lessons he taught about integrity, intelligence, and playing the long game. The memorial wall shifted to show Dad's favorite quote: "Success isn't about what you acquire, it's about what you protect." Victoria had never understood that. She'd seen only the surface, the house, the cars, the lifestyle. She'd never grasped that Dad's true wealth wasn't in his accounts, but in his principles. Sarah raised her glass, addressing the gathered guests. My father once told me that the best test of character is what people do when they think no one's watching. To those who passed that test, who were real friends, not just fair-weather allies, thank you. This celebration is for you. The screens shifted again, showing photos of Dad with various guests. Genuine moments of friendship and shared success, carefully curated to exclude any trace of Victoria. And to those watching from outside, Sarah continued, knowing the security cameras would catch Victoria lingering near the service entrance. Remember, in a world of digital footprints, someone is always watching. Her phone buzzed one final time. The SEC confirming receipt of the full evidence package. Victoria's attempts to sell company secrets would have consequences far beyond losing her expected inheritance. As the evening continued, Sarah circulated among the guests, sharing real memories of her father. Each conversation confirmed what she'd always known. Victoria had never understood the true nature of wealth. She saw the mansion but missed the foundation. She counted the cars, but ignored the character. Most importantly, she'd underestimated the bond between a father and daughter who had spent 18 months preparing to serve justice at exactly the right moment. The memorial wall cycled to its final image. Dad in his office, looking directly at the camera with his characteristic slight smile. The caption read, "The best revenge isn't just victory, it's teaching others why they lost." Sarah raised her glass to the photo. Lesson taught, Dad. Lesson taught. 1 week after the funeral, Sarah sat in her father's, now her, office at Martinez Technologies, reviewing the fallout from Victoria's spectacular downfall. The headlines had been delicious. Tech mogul's widow exposed. Corporate espionage investigation launched. Gold digging gone wrong. How a tech genius outsmarted his own wife. Martinez's last laugh. The ultimate prenup trap. Her assistant, Michael, entered with the morning briefing. Victoria's lawyer called again. They're trying to challenge the prenup. Sarah smiled, opening a folder on her desk. Send them this. Dad had their strategy meeting recorded last night. The video showed Victoria and her lawyer plotting to claim diminished capacity during the prenup signing. Unfortunately for them, they'd had this conversation in a restaurant owned by one of Dad's oldest friends. Also, Michael continued, the SEC wants to move up their meeting. They found some interesting transfers from Victoria's private account to overseas banks. Of course they did. Sarah pulled up another file. Send them this too. Dad tracked every penny she thought she was hiding. The morning sun streamed through the office windows, catching the edge of a photo on the wall. Dad and Sarah at her college graduation, both beaming at the camera. It had been taken years before Victoria entered their lives, back when Sarah's mother was still alive, and their family was complete. Her phone buzzed with a text from Howard. "You need to see this." Attached was a video from a society event the previous night. Victoria, considerably less polished than usual, was loudly proclaiming her innocence to anyone who would listen. James was manipulated by his daughter. She slurred, wine glass wobbling. She turned him against me. Sarah forwarded the video to her legal team with a simple note. Add it to the file. The intercom buzzed. "Ms. Martinez, there's someone here from Victoria's family." Sarah checked the security feed. Victoria's sister, Amanda, stood in the lobby, looking considerably more humble than she had at the funeral, where she'd been Victoria's eager co-conspirator. Send her up. Amanda entered cautiously, her designer outfit a sharp contrast to her nervous demeanor. "Sarah, we need to talk. About the jewelry you helped Victoria remove from the house during Dad's last hospital stay." Sarah opened her laptop. "Or about the company documents you helped her photograph." Amanda's face paled. "How did you?" "No." Sarah turned the screen, showing crystal clear security footage of Amanda and Victoria going through Dad's safe 3 days before his death. "We knew everything. Every theft, every scheme, every plan." Victoria said it was all legal. Amanda protested weakly. "That as his wife. As his wife, she signed a prenup that specifically prohibited exactly what you helped her do." Sarah pulled out another folder. "Would you like to see the insurance claim I'm filing for the stolen items? Or should we discuss the industrial espionage charges for the documents?" Amanda sank into a chair. "Please." Victoria said we'd all be taken care of once James died. She promised. She promised what wasn't hers to give. Sarah's voice was steel-wrapped in silk. "Now you have a choice. Return everything you helped her take, testify about her activities, and I'll consider not pressing charges against you personally. Victoria will never forgive me. Victoria will be too busy with the SEC investigation to worry about revenge." Sarah handed Amanda a document. "You have 24 hours to decide." After Amanda left, Sarah opened her father's digital journal, one of many secrets Victoria had never discovered. The last entry, dated 2 days before his death, read, "Sarah's ready. She knows the truth isn't just about facts, it's about timing. Victoria thinks she's won because I'm dying. She doesn't understand that death is just another move in the game. My daughter learned strategy at my knee. Victoria learned manipulation in her mirror. It was never going to be a fair fight." A notification popped up from the house security system. Victoria was making another attempt to enter, this time with what looked like a locksmith. Sarah pressed the intercom. "Michael, call the police and send them the restraining order documentation." She watched through the cameras as police cars arrived, Victoria's indignant protests clearly audible even without sound. The locksmith, realizing the situation, quickly packed up and left. Her phone buzzed again. Multiple messages this time. The SEC confirming their accelerated investigation. The family lawyer reporting Victoria's failed prenup challenge. Howard sharing more social media videos of Victoria's increasing public meltdown. The storage facility reporting Victoria's belongings had been abandoned. Sarah opened her desk drawer and pulled out one final envelope, the one her father had given her the night before he died. Inside was a single sheet of paper in his precise handwriting. My dearest Sarah, by the time you read this, the trap will be sprung. Victoria thinks she's won because I'm gone, but she never understood our greatest strength. We fight as one, even across the boundary of death. Everything is in place. The evidence is archived, the accounts are secured, and most importantly, you're ready. You've always been ready. Remember what I taught you. Revenge isn't about anger, it's about justice. Victoria chose her path the moment she saw our family as a target rather than a trust. Now she'll learn that every target has defenses, and some bite back. I'm proud of you, not for what you'll do to her, but for why you'll do it. This isn't about money or power. It's about protecting what matters: truth, integrity, and the legacy of love over greed. Let her fall by her own choices. Let her crash against the walls she never saw coming. And most importantly, let her learn that some fortunes can't be stolen. They can only be earned. All my love, Dad. Sarah wiped a tear from her eye and returned the letter to its drawer. On her screen, Victoria was being escorted from the property by police, her designer outfit dusty from another failed attempt to claim what was never hers. The intercom buzzed again. Ms. Martinez, the board is ready for your presentation. Sarah gathered her materials, including the complete dossier of Victoria's activities that would ensure the board's full support for her leadership. As she walked to the conference room, she passed the wall of company history. Decades of Martinez innovation and integrity. Victoria's brief appearance in that history would be a footnote, a cautionary tale about underestimating the bonds of real family and the power of patient justice. Her phone buzzed one final time. A message from the family lawyer. Victoria's accounts are frozen. SEC moves in tomorrow. Sarah smiled, remembering Dad's words. The best trap isn't the one they walk into. It's the one they build themselves. Victoria had spent 18 months building her trap, never realizing she was the prey, not the hunter. 1 month after the funeral, Sarah sat in her father's favorite spot in the garden, reviewing the final tally of Victoria's downfall on her tablet. SEC investigation concluded. Victoria charged with corporate espionage. All stolen items recovered after Amanda's confession. Victoria's attempt to sell company secrets to competitors, documented and prosecuted. Her public meltdowns. Viral sensations across social media. Final prenup challenge. Dismissed with prejudice. The morning newspaper lay beside her, its headline bringing a satisfied smile. Martinez widow pleads guilty. From gold digger to jailbird. Sarah's phone buzzed. A secure message from Howard. You need to see this. Attached was security footage from Victoria's last stand. The video showed Victoria, looking considerably less polished, attempting to sell her inside story to a tabloid journalist. Unfortunately for her, the journalist was actually an undercover SEC agent, and every word she spoke added years to her eventual sentence. Ms. Martinez? Michael appeared in the garden. The final paperwork has arrived. Sarah opened the envelope he handed her. Inside was the complete dissolution of Victoria's claims to the Martinez estate, her signed confession to corporate espionage, and most satisfyingly, her agreement to never contact the family or company again. Have you seen the latest? Michael held up his tablet, showing Victoria's sister Amanda on a morning show, tearfully confessing their entire scheme. Ratings are through the roof. Dad always said sunlight is the best disinfectant, Sarah mused, remembering their long strategy sessions during his final months. Though I doubt this was the exposure Victoria had in mind. Her father's last gift had been time. Time to plan, to prepare, to position every piece perfectly. While Victoria thought she was watching a dying man, she was actually watching a master strategist setting up his final game. Sarah's phone chimed with another message. The prison where Victoria would serve her sentence had confirmed her arrival date. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah. Victoria had wanted to live in luxury on the Martinez fortune. Instead, she'd be living in a cell because of it. Your father would be proud, Michael said quietly, gathering the papers. He knew, Sarah replied, touching the garden bench where she and Dad had spent so many hours plotting this exact outcome. He knew exactly how it would end. A final notification popped up on her tablet. Victoria's last attempt at redemption had failed. Her tell-all book deal had been canceled after the publishers discovered every word could be legally challenged. Sarah stood and walked to the rose garden her mother had planted, the same one Victoria had tried to destroy. The flowers were blooming again, just as Dad had promised they would. The best revenge, she remembered him saying, isn't watching them fall. It's watching them realize why they never had a chance to win. Victoria had wanted a fortune, but she'd never understood the real wealth of the Martinez family. The strength that came from love, not greed. From building, not taking. From earning, not stealing. Sarah's phone buzzed one last time. A video message from the house security system. Victoria stood at the gates, no longer proud and polished, but broken and defeated. She looked directly at the camera, knowing Sarah would see. "You won," she said simply, then turned and walked away. Sarah smiled, thinking of Dad's final words to her. "Remember, sweetheart, some victories aren't about winning. They're about protecting what matters most." The morning sun caught the roses, their blooms bright and defiant, just like the daughter who had protected her father's legacy to the very end. "Checkmate, Victoria," Sarah whispered to the garden, just like Dad planned.